Fall is election season in many countries, and as such, I figured it would be good to do a video on the different types of governments, starting with the most popular, presidential and parliamentary democracy. A parliamentary democracy is a system in which there are two roles. There's a head of government and a head of state. The head of government is a prime minister, and they make all the laws and stuff, and the head of state, which in a constitutional monarchy is the queen, in a parliamentary republic is the president, has a more ceremonial job. They act as a figurehead to the country. Furthermore, unlike a presidential system, the prime minister is not elected by the people. He or she is elected by the party. The general public votes for the members of parliament, which are part of the legislative body. And the party that has the most members of parliament in parliament, that party head becomes prime minister. Let's have an example, shall we? Say there are two parties. One, the mammal party, headed by Mrs. Elephant, and another, the reptile party, headed by Mr. Cobra. Both parties get MPs into Parliament, but the Reptile Party has more seats, therefore has control of Parliament, and Mr. Cobra becomes Prime Minister. With a parliamentary democracy, legislation is passed more easily because the majority of the legislative body and the executive body are of the same party. As such, there's very little disagreement as to what type of laws get passed, unlike the gridlock you typically see in a presidential system. But say, one day, Mrs. Alligator feels that Mr. Cobra is not doing a very good job as Prime Minister, a sentiment that many people in the party are feeling. She could hold a vote of no confidence to replace Mr. Cobra, perhaps with herself. It's a quick and relatively painless option. The presidential system, on the other hand, is a little bit different. There's only one leader, the president, and he or she is the head of state and the head of government. In this example, say we have a country that uses a presidential system, in which the primate party is elected by the people, not the legislature. The legislature is elected the exact same way, but the majority of the legislature is different than the party in the executive office, which is, let's say, the dog party. It's harder to pass bills because the parties are quite different and have different values. Also, unlike the parliamentary system, it's harder to get the executive thrown out of office. You have to go to this thing called impeachment, which can only really be used if the president commits a crime. Overall, the advantages of a presidential system is that more checks and balances can occur within the government, since the leaders are elected by the people and don't hold complete control of the legislature. However, it's significantly harder to pass laws because the legislative branch could be very different than the executive. Conversely, in a parliamentary system, it is easier to pass laws. Also, prime ministers wield more powers since they are essentially the head of the executive as well as the head of the legislature. But it's more unstable since the party leaders are relatively fluid. There are some countries that have decided to take different parts of different systems and create one of their own, like semi-presidential systems. But by and large, the majority of the world tends to fall into one of these two categories. There are other types of governments, ones that don't require elections, but we'll get into those another time. Until next time.